the warm African sun had just begun to appear over the horizon, revealing a picturesque painted sky in hues of orange and pink. Our village, nestled in the heart of the lush Nigerian rainforest, was slowly coming to Nkuraso. The rich aroma of ripe mangoes and the earthy aroma of yams filled the air as I stepped out of my mud brick hut, its thatched roof glistening with morning dew. My name is Adebola, and I am a hunter in our village of Nkuraso. As I walked through the narrow paths between the circular huts, I could hear the gentle clucking of chickens and the distant bleating of goats. Women were already up, pounding cassava in large wooden mortars, the rhythmic thud, thud, thud echoing through the village. I made my way to the village square where our ancient Iroko tree stood tall and proud. Its massive trunk, wider than 10 men standing shoulder to shoulder, was a testament to its age. The Iroko's branches reached towards the heavens, providing shade for our entire village. It was said that the spirit of our ancestors resided within this tree, watching over us and guiding our paths. As I approached the tree, I noticed something unusual. There, at the base of the trunk, was a young woman I had never seen before. She was kneeling, her forehead pressed against the rough bark of the Iroko, her lips moving in silent prayer. Her geel head wrap, a vibrant blue and gold, shimmered in the early morning light. Curious, I called out to her, "Ekaro, good morning. I don't believe we've met before. I am Adebola." She turned, startled by my voice. Her eyes, the color of rich cocoa, met mine, and for a moment I forgot to breathe. She was beautiful, with skin like polished ebony and a smile that could outshine the sun. "Ekaro," she replied softly. "I am Olayinka. I've come from the village of Ondo, seeking the wisdom of the great Iroko tree." I was intrigued. The wisdom of the Iroko? What brings you on such a journey? Olayinka's eyes clouded with worry. "My village is in trouble. Our crops are failing, and a strange sickness has befallen our people. Our elders believe that only the spirit of the Iroko can help us." As she spoke, a cold wind suddenly whipped through the village square, causing the leaves of the Iroko to rustle ominously. The chickens scattered, and in the distance I heard the alarmed cries of children. "Something is not right," I murmured, looking around. The sky, which had been clear moments ago, was now filling with dark, angry clouds. "Come, Olayinka, we must speak with our chief." We hurried through the village, past the market where traders were hastily covering their wares, piles of colorful beads, stacks of woven baskets, and mounds of fresh fruits and vegetables. The smell of roasting plantains and suya filled the air, mixed with the growing tension. Chief Osei's compound was the largest in the village, surrounded by a low mud wall adorned with intricate carvings. As we approached, I could hear raised voices from within. We entered to find the chief in deep discussion with the village elders. "Ah, Adebola," the chief greeted me, his lined face creased with concern. "And who is this?" I introduced Olayinka and explained her presence. As she recounted her village's troubles, the chief's frown deepened. "This is grave news indeed," he said, stroking his white beard. "It seems the evil that plagues your village has followed you here, Olayinka. Our Iroko tree has sensed it." A collective gasp went through the room. The Iroko was our protector, our connection to the spirit world. If it was troubled, we were all in danger. The chief turned to me. "Adebola, you are our bravest hunter. You must go on a quest to discover the source of this evil and put an end to it. Take Olayinka with you. Her knowledge of her village's plight may prove useful." I nodded solemnly, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. I looked at Olayinka, seeing the determination in her eyes. Despite having just met, I felt a connection to her, a sense that our destinies were somehow intertwined. As we left the chief's compound, the village was in a flurry of activity. People were securing their homes, bringing in livestock, and gathering supplies. The air was thick with tension and the scent of impending rain. "We must leave at once," I told Olayinka. "Pack only what you need. We have a long journey ahead." Within the hour, we were at the edge of the village, ready to embark on our quest. The forest loomed before us, dark and foreboding. I clutched my hunting spear tightly while Olayinka carried a small pouch of herbs and a water gourd. As we stepped into the shadows of the great trees, I heard a voice call out behind us. It was my younger brother, Taiwo. "Adebola, wait!" he cried, running towards us. "I'm coming with you." I turned to him, seeing the eagerness in his young face. "No, Taiwo, it's too dangerous. You must stay and help protect the village." His face fell, but he nodded understanding. "Then take this," he said, handing me a small wooden charm. "For protection." I smiled, tucking the charm into my pocket. "Thank you, brother. We'll return soon." With a final look back at our village, Olayinka and I plunged into the forest. The canopy above was so thick that little sunlight penetrated, casting everything in a green, shadowy light. The air was humid and filled with the calls of birds and the chattering of monkeys. As we walked, Olayinka told me more about her village. "It started with the crops," she said. "First, the yams began to rot in the ground. Then the cassava leaves turned black and withered. Soon after, people began to fall ill." "And your elders believe it's a curse?" I asked, pushing aside a large leaf. She nodded. "They say it's the work of an evil spirit, angry at our village for some unknown transgression." Suddenly, a blood-curdling screech rent the air. We froze, my hand tightening on my spear. "What was that?" Olayinka whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Before I could answer, a large, dark shape burst from the undergrowth. It was a baboon, but unlike any I had ever seen. Its fur was matted and patchy, its eyes glowing an unnatural red. It bared its teeth at us, saliva dripping from its jaws. "Run!" I shouted, pushing Olayinka ahead of me. We crashed through the forest, with monstrous baboons hot on our heels. Their screeches echoed behind us, joined by others. When we looked behind us, there were more that joined the chase. My heart pounded in my chest as we ran, leaping over fallen logs and dodging low-hanging vines. I could hear the creatures getting closer. In desperation, I spotted a large, hollowed-out log ahead. "Quick, in here!" I gasped, helping Olayinka into the log before squeezing in after her. We held our breath as the baboons thundered past our hiding place, their cries fading into the distance. We stayed still for several minutes, our bodies pressed close in the confined space. I could feel Olayinka trembling against me, her breath coming in short gusts. "Are you all right?" I whispered. She nodded, unable to speak. As the danger passed, I became acutely aware of how close we were. Her eyes met mine in the dim light, and for a moment, the world seemed to stand still. The moment was broken by a low rumbling sound. At first I thought it was thunder, but it was too constant, too rhythmic. It was coming from beneath us. "We need to move," I said urgently. We scrambled out of the log just as the ground began to shake. To our horror, the earth split open mere feet from where we had been hiding. From the crack emerged an enormous snake, its scales black as night and eyes glowing with the same eerie red light as the baboons. "The evil spirit!" Olayinka gasped. "It must be!" The snake reared up, its head towering above the treetops. It fixed its gaze upon us, its forked tongue flicking out menacingly. "We can't outrun it," I said, gripping my spear. "We must stand and fight." Olayinka reached into her pouch and pulled out a handful of herbs. "These are sacred to my village," she said. "Perhaps they can help." As the snake lunged towards us, I raised my spear and Olayinka threw the herbs. To our amazement, when the herbs touched the snake's scales, they began to smoke and burn. The creature recoiled, hissing in pain and anger. Taking advantage of its distraction, I darted forward and thrust my spear into its side. The snake thrashed wildly, nearly knocking me off my feet. Olayinka grabbed my arm, steadying me. "Together," she said, her voice firm, despite her fear. She took hold of the spear with me, and as one, we pushed it deeper. The snake let out an ear-splitting shriek. Its body began to writhe and contort, black smoke pouring from its wounds. With a final mighty convulsion, it collapsed to the ground, its body dissolving into a dark mist that seeped back into the crack in the earth. We stood there, panting and stunned by what had just occurred. The forest around us seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, the oppressive atmosphere lifting. "You saved us," I said to Olayinka, looking at her with elevated admiration. She smiled, a blush coloring her cheeks. We saved each other. As we made our way back to the village, the sun was setting as we emerged from the forest. The village erupted in cheers as we approached, people running to greet us. Chief Osei stepped forward, his face beaming with pride. "You have done it," he exclaimed. "The Iroko Tree has calmed and we can feel that evil has been vanquished. Tell us what happened." After we recounted our adventure, Chief Osei and the villagers cheered and thanked us for defeating the evil that plagued our two villages. The next day, before the sunrise, Olayinka and I stood beneath the great Iroko Tree. Its leaves rustled gently, as if giving us its approval.
Thank you for watching African and African American Folktales. Please like this video, ring the notification bell, and consider becoming a subscriber. Your comments provide feedback that help us create entertaining content